All right, today we're going to be making a non-objective work of art. I'm using Chrome Canvas. You don't have to use it. You can use Sketchpad 5.1, or you could use actual art materials like crayons, color pencils, markers, that sort of thing. Today, for our non-objective work of art, we want to remember that a non-objective work of art is not going to have any identifiable object, nothing that we can identify as the subject matter. It's just going to be all about those lines and shapes and color. And so I'm going to start off with my marker, and I don't want it to be too big. I'm going to turn it down to about so. And what I'm going to do is what we call a scribble drawing. And so you can follow along at home, either in your digital media, or if you're using that marker, color pencil, if you got a Sharpie on your paper, you're ready to go. So let's do a scribble drawing. So the way a scribble drawing is, we're just going to pick a point and start, and we're just going to move a line all the way around and let it crisscross over itself. Every once in a while, I like to make a sharp turn. And then when we got enough lines, look what I'm doing. I bring it right back to where I started. Now we can hardly tell where we start and where we stop. The next thing I want to do is I want to think about how I'm going to use color. Because now I've used line, this black line that goes all around to create these contour lines that go around these shapes. So now I've got line and shape. I want to think about color. So I'm going to go to a layer below that outline I just drew. I'm going to pick my favorite coloring tool, that little chalk pastel, and I'm going to turn it, don't want it too big. And I want to start thinking about how I'm going to use color. And I'm going to choose my red first of all, and I want to think about how I'm going to use, first of all, my primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. And also my secondary colors, orange, green, and purple. So I want to choose several areas here that I'm going to do in red. And I want to turn that opacity up because I really want that to be pretty opaque. If you remember, that opacity or opaqueness is how easy it is to see through or not see through. We also can consider the transparency, how transparent. When we say something's opaque, we're saying you can't see through it. And when we're saying it's transparent, we're saying you can see through it. So I want this to be pretty opaque. I want my color to be down there. You can see this looks like crayon, and I'm okay if I get outside the edges a little bit. I'm not too worried. And you shouldn't worry too much either. If you get outside your lines, you just chalk that up for your artistic license. That's your license to do what you want in your work of art. So I want to pick lots of different areas that I can make red. When my design is done, I don't want red to be touching a red shape to be touching a red shape. I want there to be different colors in between every other color. So I want to make sure when I pick my reds, they aren't right next to each other. And I've just about got most of the reds in that I want to use. Now remember, we talked about those primary colors being red, yellow, and blue. I want to now start thinking about what's the next color I'm going to use. And I think it's going to be my blue. So I want to go and I want to choose. I'm going to go to my palette here. And I'm going to choose this blue. I like that blue. That's really nice. And I want to choose some really nice big areas for my blue. Look at that, because it's such a nice blue. And I want to have several areas that are blue, just like my red. I want to try to avoid having blue right next to blue. So for instance, that little area just to the bottom left, the one I just did there, that one we don't want to make blue. I like making these little spaces over here. That'd be a good blue shape. What about this? This would be a nice blue shape right here. And I'm starting to kind of find where I like the blue, and I like it here. This would be nice. And now I'll start thinking maybe where I'll put my last primary color, that yellow. And so I'll do another blue or two and start thinking about that yellow. Now, what we've done now, we've got two colors that are kind of dark. You know, the red's pretty dark in value. We talk about values, how light or dark something is. That blue is kind of darker. The red's kind of dark in value. But I bet when we pick this yellow, it's going to look much, much lighter in value. And that will provide something we call contrast. When we have two very different things, like something bright next to something dull or dark, that's called contrast. Or we have something really big, maybe something next to really small, we call that contrast. And so I like the way the yellow kind of really pops out against these blue and these red shapes. And now I've got a lot of really nice areas of yellow. And I think I want to now start thinking about how I'm going to use my secondary colors. Remember we talked about purple, orange, and green are those secondary colors. If I mix red and yellow together, I get orange. And so orange is a secondary color. And it's made when we mix two primary colors. The two primaries, red and yellow, make orange. So I'm going to just pop in orange here in a couple places. The next secondary color, if we mix the primary color red with the primary color blue, we get purple. And I'm going to choose a purple. I'll make some of these areas purple. What? I think I want to change that one. I think I'm going to do it green here in a minute. Oh, I gave away the next secondary color, didn't I? That's okay. All right, so I've got some purples in there. I like all that purple. I think I'm going to add one more area of purple right over here. And then we've got that last secondary color. If we mix the primary blue with the primary color yellow, we get green. And I want to use some green here to finish out my non-objective design. Now, again, let's remember, why do we call this non-objective? Well, when we look at this work of art, we're not going to be able to identify any particular one thing. We're not, for instance, going to say, hey, that looks like a shoe, or I think that's a tractor, or maybe that's the planet Earth. Nope. We're just going to look at this and go, that is just a design that uses line, shape, and color. Oop, and I tell you what I want to do. I want to go back and pick my purple again. And I want to fill this space in with purple. And I love that. That is my non-objective design. I look forward to seeing what your non-objective design looks like. Remember, think about how you're going to use line. In this case, I used this bold black line that makes my design. Think about how you're going to use shape. Maybe you'll just draw squares and triangles and circles, or maybe overlapping organic shapes like clouds or trees. Oh, but we don't want them to look like clouds or trees, do we? Because we don't want it to look like something. But think about how maybe you can make the shape of sort of a rock, because that would be sort of non-objective. It'd be hard to tell what that would be. So we want to make sure it doesn't look like anything. We want to have it no identifiable or recognizable object being represented in our work of art. Non-objective. Thank you guys and have a great day.